Welcome to my channel, Rise Up with Steve. Please hit like, subscribe, and don't forget to share with your friends. Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear, but you need to hear it. Just because you stop calling, stop texting, stop checking in, does not mean you disappeared from his mind. That's not how emotions work. That's not how attachment works. And that's definitely not how men work. See, when you were available, when you were present, when you were consistent, he didn't fully feel your value. Not because you were valuable, but because access hides importance. When something is always there, people assume it always will be. But the moment you step back, the moment the noise stops, the silence starts talking. Men process loss differently. Women talk it out. Men sit with it. And in that quiet space, your absence becomes loud. Suddenly, the little things hit him: the way you listened, the way you believed in him, the way you showed up without being asked. Things he overlooked before now replay in his mind when you're no longer there to offer them. And here's the truth that might surprise you. No contact doesn't push him away, it forces him to think. When you don't chase, when you don't explain, when you don't beg for clarity, you give him something rare: space to feel. And feelings grow in space, not pressure. Now let me be clear. This isn't about manipulation. This isn't about playing games. This is about self-respect. When you stop overgiving, when you stop proving, when you stop trying to be chosen, you shift the power dynamic. And power isn't loud. Power is calm. Power is quiet. Power walks away knowing its worth. If he's thinking about you, it's not because you reminded him. It's because your presence mattered. It's because you represented peace, support, and belief at a time when he needed it, even if he didn't know how to protect it. But here's the most important part, and listen to me closely: whether he comes back or not is not the point. The point is that when you chose yourself, you stopped shrinking. You stopped waiting. You stopped putting your life on pause for someone who was unsure. When silence enters a space that was once filled with constant communication, something powerful happens in the human mind. Silence is not empty. Silence is loud. Silence forces reflection. When you stop contacting him, when you stop sending messages, when you stop checking in just to see if he still cares, you remove the distractions that once kept him comfortable. In that quiet, his mind has no choice but to wander. And when it wanders, it often circles back to what is missing. That's how reflection begins, not through reminders, but through absence. Men in particular are not wired to immediately process emotional loss the way women do. When a woman feels something slipping away, she wants to talk, to clarify, to fix. A man often avoids emotional discomfort by staying busy, by focusing on work, friends, or routine. While contact continues, he doesn't feel the full weight of your value because the connection still exists in some form. But once contact stops, the safety net disappears. There is no text to check, no voice to reassure him, no presence to lean on. That's when the mind starts replaying moments he once ignored. Reflection happens when routine is broken. Your absence disrupts his emotional routine. He begins to notice the gaps you filled without him ever asking. The way you listened when he was frustrated. The way you believed in him when he doubted himself. The way you brought warmth, understanding, and consistency into his life. These memories surface not because you pushed them forward, but because silence created space for them to rise. Silence also removes pressure. When someone feels pressured to respond, to explain, or to defend their actions, their focus is on escape, not understanding. But when there is no pressure, no confrontation, no emotional demand, the mind relaxes. In that relaxed state, emotions are felt more deeply. He starts asking himself questions he avoided before. Why does this feel different? Why does her absence bother me? Why do I miss someone I thought I could live without? The truth is, silence gives him something conversations couldn't. Conversations often turn into negotiations of feelings, where both sides try to be right. Silence removes the argument and leaves only emotion. And emotion, when left alone, grows louder. He may remember things at unexpected times while driving, late at night, during quiet mornings, not because you reached out, but because your absence followed him into those moments. Another powerful part of silence is that it shifts the emotional balance. When you stop initiating contact, you stop feeding uncertainty, you stop explaining your worth. You stop offering reassurance to someone who was unsure. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you grounded. And that grounded energy is what forces reflection. He realizes that you didn't disappear to punish him, you disappeared to protect yourself. That realization carries weight. Silence also challenges his sense of control. When you were always available, he unconsciously assumed you would stay. Your presence felt guaranteed. But silence breaks that assumption. It introduces the idea that you have a life, boundaries, and self-respect beyond him. And when a man realizes that he might actually lose access to someone who mattered, reflection becomes unavoidable. Most importantly, silence brings clarity. It strips away confusion and reveals truth. If he cared, the absence will make him feel it. If he didn't, the silence still serves you because it removes you from a space where you were undervalued. Either way, silence works in your favor. It protects your energy and forces honesty both in him and in you. You don't need to remind someone of your value when your presence already added meaning to their life. Silence doesn't erase you. It defines you. And in that quiet space, reflection does what words never could. It tells the truth. When something is always available, the mind stops treating it as special. This is not cruelty. It's human nature. Familiarity creates comfort. And comfort often creates complacency. When you are always there, always answering, always explaining, always forgiving, your presence becomes part of his routine instead of something he consciously values. He doesn't wake up thinking about what you bring to his life because he assumes it will still be there tomorrow. That's how access quietly reduces perceived value. Men often confuse availability with security. When they know you're reachable at any moment, they relax emotionally. They stop putting in effort, not because they don't care, but because they don't feel urgency. Urgency is born from the possibility of loss. Without that possibility, appreciation fades into the background. Your kindness, your patience, your emotional labor become invisible simply because they are always accessible. When access is removed, the shift is immediate. Even if it's not expressed right away, suddenly there is no instant reply, no quick reassurance, no familiar voice to soften the day. The mind starts noticing the difference. He may not admit it out loud, but internally he begins comparing his current emotional state to the past. That comparison is where value is rediscovered. What once felt normal now feels missing. Easy access also allows emotional laziness. When someone knows you'll stay no matter what, they stop checking themselves. They delay commitment. They take longer to show up fully. They assume they have time. Removing access disrupts that illusion. It forces him to confront the idea that time is not guaranteed and that people who are not protected can walk away. This is not about punishment or withholding love. It's about restoring balance. When you limit access, you are not saying, you don't deserve me. You are saying, I deserve consistency. That internal shift changes how you carry yourself. You become less reactive, less anxious, less focused on whether he chooses you. And that calm self-respect is what makes your value visible again. There is also a psychological truth many people overlook. The mind assigns worth based on effort. When access is easy, effort drops. When access requires intention, effort rises. By stepping back, you give him the chance to feel the effort gap. He notices that reaching you would require more than habit. It would require intention, vulnerability, and accountability. And those things are uncomfortable, which is why they're avoided when access is unlimited. Unlimited access also prevents growth on both sides. You stay stuck trying to be understood, and he stays comfortable not understanding you fully. When access is reduced, growth becomes necessary. Either he steps up emotionally or you step forward in your own life. Both outcomes lead to clarity. There is no confusion in distance. Confusion lives in over-availability. Another truth is that access blurs boundaries. When you are always reachable, people forget that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable resources. By stepping back, you reintroduce boundaries without having to announce them. Boundaries enforced through silence are often more powerful than boundaries explained through long conversations. They don't invite debate. They simply exist. Removing access doesn't guarantee someone will change, but it guarantees that you stop overgiving. And the moment you stop overgiving, you stop being taken for granted. That alone shifts how you are perceived, whether he returns or not. Value was never lost. It was hidden by constant access. When access ends, value becomes visible again, not through words, but through absence that speaks louder than presence ever did. When a woman chooses self-respect, the entire emotional dynamic changes. Self-respect is not loud. It does not argue, and it does not beg to be understood. It is quiet, steady, and rooted in knowing one's own worth. When you stop chasing, stop over-explaining, and stop trying to convince someone to see your value, you send a message far stronger than any emotional speech ever could. That message is simple. You know who you are, and you will not diminish yourself to be chosen. Chasing creates imbalance. The person being chased holds the power, even if they are unsure of what they want. The one chasing becomes reactive, emotionally exhausted and dependent on responses for validation. But the moment you step back, the power shifts. Not because you demanded it, but because you removed yourself from the role of pursuer. Power returns to the person who can walk away with dignity, rather than stay in uncertainty. Self-respect also removes emotional chaos. When you no longer chase, you stop living in a constant state of waiting for replies, waiting for reassurance, waiting for clarity. That waiting drains confidence and creates anxiety. Choosing self-respect means choosing peace over constant emotional turbulence. And peace is magnetic. It makes others pause and reevaluate how they treated you. There is a misconception that if you don't chase, you don't care. In truth, not chasing often means you care enough about yourself to not abandon your standards. You care enough to protect your emotional well-being. When someone realizes that you are no longer trying to convince them to stay, it forces a moment of reflection. They start questioning their own actions. Why did she stop reaching out? Why does she seem stronger now? Why does her absence feel different? When you explain too much, you give people room to argue with your feelings. When you chase, you give them room to delay decisions. But when you step back with self-respect, you remove those options. Silence backed by self-worth doesn't invite confusion. It creates clarity. It tells the other person that you will not settle for half effort or emotional uncertainty. Self-respect also reshapes how you see yourself. Instead of measuring your worth by someone else's attention, you begin measuring it by your own standards. You start investing energy in your growth, your healing, and your future. This internal shift is noticeable. People can feel when someone is no longer seeking validation. That energy commands respect even from those who once took you for granted. There's also strength in not reacting. When you stop chasing, you stop responding from hurt and start responding from clarity. You no longer feel the urge to prove your value or defend your emotions. That restraint is powerful. It signals emotional maturity and confidence, qualities that naturally draw attention and respect. Most importantly, self-respect frees you from outcomes. Whether he comes back or not stops defining your happiness. You are no longer waiting to be chosen because you have already chosen yourself. And when someone senses that they are no longer the center of your emotional world, they either rise to meet your level or fade out of relevance. Walking away with self-respect does not mean you lost. It means you refuse to lose yourself. And that choice, more than anything else, is what quietly shifts power back into your hands. When you focus only on whether he will return, you place your life on pause. Your emotions, your plans, and your sense of worth start revolving around a single outcome that you cannot control. That waiting slowly shrinks you. It makes your happiness conditional and your confidence fragile. Growth begins the moment you realize that your life is bigger than someone else's decision, and your future does not require their approval to move forward. Choosing growth means redirecting energy back to yourself. The energy you once spent overthinking his silence, rereading old messages, or imagining different endings now becomes fuel for healing. Healing is not dramatic. It happens quietly, in small moments where you choose rest over rumination, self-care over self-blame, and progress over nostalgia. Each of those choices strengthens you in ways a reunion never could. When you grow, your standards evolve. What once felt acceptable no longer feels enough. You start recognizing patterns you previously ignored. You understand what consistency feels like, what emotional safety looks like, and what mutual effort truly means. This clarity doesn't come from getting someone back. It comes from outgrowing the version of yourself that's settled for uncertainty. Growth also changes how you love. You stop loving from fear and start loving from fullness. Instead of needing someone to complete you, you allow connection to complement you. This shift is powerful because it removes desperation from your energy. Desperation pushes people away, but wholeness attracts respect. When you are no longer waiting for someone to choose you, you become someone who chooses carefully. There is a quiet confidence that forms when you prioritize your own development. You become more grounded, more emotionally aware, and more selective with where you invest your heart. This confidence is not built on attention or validation. It is built on self-trust. You trust yourself to walk away from what hurts you. You trust yourself to survive endings. And that trust makes you resilient. Ironically, growth is often what makes someone look back. Not because you tried to impress them, but because you are no longer available in the same way. Your life looks fuller. Your energy feels different. You are no longer waiting at the door of the past. But even if that recognition never comes, your growth still pays off because it benefits you, not your ego. When your focus shifts inward, you stop romanticizing potential and start honoring reality. You no longer cling to who someone could have been. You accept who they showed themselves to be. That acceptance is freeing. It releases you from the endless cycle of hope and disappointment and allows you to move forward with clarity instead of questions. Growth teaches you that love should not cost you your peace. It should not require constant anxiety or self-sacrifice. As you evolve, you learn that the right connection will not make you doubt your worth or chase reassurance. It will meet you where you are with consistency and care. The most important truth is this: if he returns before you grow, you risk repeating the same story. But if you grow regardless of whether he returns, you guarantee a different ending for yourself. Growth changes the story even if the characters stay the same. Your progress is permanent. His return is optional. And once you truly understand that, you stop waiting for someone to come back and start building a life that moves forward with or without them.